Good morning, good noon, and good evening. Hi, it's me, DJ, QMacro, hands-on SAP dev with QMacro. Yet another episode. This is number 33, so we've had 30. Well, this is our 34th episode. Of course, we just started counting at 0, as we all know. Welcome to those who've joined already. Thank you very much for joining. It's great to see you. Good morning, Ronnie. Good morning, Gregor. Good morning, Lupomania. Maybe I should keep to the Twitch IDs. Good morning, Lupomania, brackets, Gregor. Good morning, Mahesh, or good noon. Good noon, Mahesh. Good noon, Nabheet. Moin. Good morning, Mark. Nice to see you. Thulium3. What does a 3 signify in that name, Mark? Let me know. I've got my coffee, although it's in my, obviously, SAP Coffee Corner radio podcast mug. Morning, Fred. But it's like this emergency coffee. It's in a jar that I've had for ages. Somebody gave it me, so it's quite old coffee, and I'm so used to drinking freshly roasted, freshly ground coffee that this is not great. So, but it's still coffee. I've had an espresso this morning after my short run. Beautiful weather this morning. Cold, damp, cool, still. Now the sun's coming out as it's just after 8 o'clock now. So yeah, here we go. So bit of a random one today, I think. Hey, howdy, Robert Dino. How are you today? Nice to see you on the stream. And Srikanth, good noon. I'm taking Nabheet's lead here, where Nabheet says hello everyone. Good noon and good morning, Mr. Murray. Good morning, John. Great to see you. That's nice. So, I was just saying it's a bit of a random one today. I had a chat with 2 or 3 folks this week on, asking for some feedback and some direction and what I should do more of, what I should do less of. And, whether I could do longer than an hour. But putting that sort of the length of the streams aside for a second, one of the things that came up was I should be bold and do even less prepared stuff, and that's what I've been trying to work towards as well. And of course I can't really, I can't really scale this if I have to prepare every single stream. I've been cutting down the preparation. Obviously for the first stream I was absolutely petrified, the very first stream, because I had all the other stuff to juggle as well, like the OBS and the microphone, is that working, and the stream health and all that sort of stuff. But that's sort of just in the background now, and I'm really thinking, I spend no more, obviously thinking about it in my mind during the week, but any sort of hacking around, spending no more than like half an hour. But really today I've hardly done anything. Because I also want it to be a little bit more random. And one thing that one of you said was that you enjoyed when things didn't go quite to plan, and when things went wrong and we had to sort of debug things or work things out. So, and to be honest, I enjoy watching people have problems and then working through those problems to solutions. But I also want to, make sure that it's not a one-way thing. It's not a broadcast. Of course, I am broadcasting literally, but of course, I've got all you folks in the chat stream as well, which is wonderful to see. So yeah, I would love to give you folks a chance to interact more. I know I do talk a lot. So I'm just looking at the chat screen down here. So in fact, Mark, you've answered. TM3 was used in my fiber laser. Fiber laser? I don't even know what fiber... Should I know what fiber laser is? Is that some sort of online game? I don't know. Sounds like it could be. That reminds me, I used to play a role-playing game called Laserburn. We used to play Dungeons and Dragons as well, but there's this really cool game called Laserburn, which was in the 70s. Was it 70s? Late 70s. Yeah, anyway. Good morning, HP. Good morning. I see a laser made with glass fiber. Okay, fair enough. A bit scary. But anyway. So, and another person I spoke to said that because I've been cutting back on the not announcements, but the random bits of things I've found. For example, I went through a phase of pointing to other Twitch streamers that I watch, so I'll start doing that again. How a fiber laser works? Yes, a fiber optic cable. This is great. So a random question from me and an answer from Mark has sparked quite an interesting discussion here. A laser made with glass fiber. Wow. Okay. Sounds good. But yeah, anyway, where was I? So I want to keep it more relaxed and say more announcements and sort of things I found. I want to have a look at what Fred pointed me to yesterday, actually, relating to the words package and module, which is really interesting. And I then thought we'd have a look at cap and the package.json and how that fits together with dependencies and using modules like that, because it reminded me of something. So we'll try and get that, find that something and get that something working. It was to do with stuff that was written for TechEd last year, TechEd 2018. 2018? Yeah, 2018. Quote from YouTube comments: I am a fiber laser operator and I still don't know how it works. All I know is that magic comes through the nozzle, which in turn cuts through steel. Now, that's a nice quote because it sort of applies to me with computing as well. You know, there's a lot of magic that I don't understand what's going on. I don't really know what's going on at all. And so it's like, yeah, this is really cool. And I'm in constant wonder and awe at things people do with computing. And there's always so much to discover. In fact, this is a really good link. There's so much to discover because, I'm wearing my... Where is it? There we are. The Future is Terminal t-shirt again. Because the future is terminal, and I dug out this book that I bought a while ago and sort of glanced through. It's only a very short book, but now I've sort of got to grips, got maybe a bit more brain space, and the stuff that I'm doing relates more and more to cap and local development as well. You know, it allows me to sort of rejoice in the terminal. So and the future is now. Yes, the future is now. It is indeed. It allows me to think a little bit more about setting up my development environment and improving it and so on. And also with my general idea of it was better in the past. Of course, it's going to be better in the future as well. But 70s music, fantastic. 70s IT technologies, fantastic. Terminals everywhere. Anyway. This is the book I've been reading. It's a very thin book. I've mentioned Tmux before, and I know that some people have started playing with Tmux since I've mentioned it, but I didn't realise the full power of Tmux. I've been sort of tickling around the edges. So I want to show you something when we get going. Mark says, would be interesting to know better when to use cap and when. Yes. That's a really interesting question because I guess it applies to many technologies, when to use this, when to use that, when to use OData and when not to use OData, for example, just randomly picking another technology out of the air. Of course, theoretically, one might say that you don't have to use cap at all. In that cap is an opinionated framework or a programming model for building stuff that you can deploy to the cloud, run on Cloud Foundry, eventually Kubernetes as well, or whatever. But it doesn't do anything that you can't do manually. And when should I use a framework? When should I go back to basics and do everything by hand? I don't know. It's a hard question to answer directly. I think one of the obvious answers, as opposed to backend as a service, yes. Yeah. So one of the answers is think it's fair to say, when you're developing extensions to, SAP software as a service, SAP S/4HANA, for example, this is the sort of corporate answer. But you can do extensions in other ways as well. If you're if you have other frameworks, you can roll your own, right? I think any answer might be a bit rambly, and I'm aware I'm rambling here, but when to use CAP? When you want to rejoice in the layers of abstraction and let a lot of the language do the work for you. So, for example, one thing I'm finding as I'm learning as well is that CDS, coupled with annotations, is this absolutely beautiful level of abstraction in which to think. That takes a lot of the work away from you having to do stuff at the persistence layer. And of course, you'd be using CAP, just referencing what Mark and Fred are talking about. Sorry, I've just seen Ronnie's comment. Is that an ebook but printed on paper? Yes, it's an ebook that's been printed out. How funny is that? How the tables have turned. If you want a backend as a service, what sort of features does a backend as a service offer? I remember playing around with Pars.com. Was it Pars.com? A long time ago. One of the first backends as a service that I ever came across. And yes, it had an API. I suppose in a similar way, if you think of Google App Engine, which is more of a platform as a service, inside that Google App Engine offering as a platform as a service was effectively a backend as a service as well. It was, again, proprietary is the wrong word, but it was a you were in a captive technology stack, but you could use a persistence layer that was there for you to use, and in the same way you can do that. I suppose the difference with CAP for me is that it's completely malleable. You can define whatever data structures you want, whatever relationships you want, at a level that's sort of independent of the back end layer. I'm rambling here. When just using existing OData services, is CAP still useful here? Well, I'll answer it in this way. I remember when I first discovered OData, in the context of Gateway, the OData server layer on the ABAP stack, and it was relatively straightforward to build OData services. And now we take that for granted, that we can have OData services, and we have OData services that we can build or consume on the ABAP stack. And then there was also the possibility of using some other libraries in the Java world to build OData backends, as in independent from the ABAP stack. But apart from that, it was not impossible, but super hard for me, I thought, to build an OData service if I wasn't running on an ABAP stack. And I'm not a Java person. I dislike the Java software ecosystem because I don't know, it just seems incredibly complex, more complex than it needs to be. I'm going to get stick for that comment, aren't I? Anyway, I've said it. But outside those two humongous stacks, it was impossible to practically build an OData service. But now with CAP, bang, 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 you've got an OData service. It's so super simple with the language that I find myself using day in, day out, which is JavaScript. So I don't know whether that sort of speaks to that question a little bit, Mark. Yes, it has got better with Spring Boot, but again, Spring Boot is just, and again, I've been saying that abstraction is a good thing, and Spring Boot is yet another layer of abstraction over the top of stuff in Java. But I don't know. I've got this mental block with a lot of the Java stuff. To be honest, it's also partly I dislike the language itself. I like the JVM. I like other JVM languages like Clojure and Scala. But I just don't like Java. It's just very verbose. Anyway, Yes, John, you read my mind. I don't enjoy writing excessive amounts of boilerplate code. Indeed. Ronnie says, but it means I have to conform to Firebase to get used to it. Ronnie, what were you saying before this? Uses Firebase? Yes, yeah. Firebase is a really nice backend, but it's now more than just a backend. I remember playing around with Firebase and UI5 a long time ago. And then also when I was on the UI5 project in Waldorf as an external person back in 2013, 2014, I worked with somebody to build a prototype UI5 Firebase model library. And since then, that never got released, but since then I know Tiago, who is on this in the live stream family and is on here sometimes, Tiago Almeida, he published a UI5 model for Firebase, which is working really nicely. But yes, I mean, Ronnie, your point is that you have to think in terms of Firebase to get used to it. Yeah, there's pros and cons to everything. For every advantage, there's a cost. Not that the cost is always going to be great. This is. Thank you for chatting so much here. There's so much to talk about. This. One of the problems with the live stream that I do is that we only have an hour, and I want to keep it to an hour, I think, because I know people are working. There's test-driven. Yes, so HP is saying, what about test-driven development with CAP? Code without tests is legacy code, I like that. Who was I talking to? Was I talking to? Let me know if it was one of you folks talking about testing with CAP and running tests. We will have to get Volker involved here because for me Volker is Mr. TDD or Mr. Testing. Maybe we should plan to do some sort of test episode or two with CAP. And I know that, I think I just saw something from Gregor, I know that you've been doing some work on some testing, automated testing for your SAP Inside Track registration backend, SitRegM. Yes, but you haven't got very far yet. So maybe that's something we can look at as well. Okay, so you have tests on the old version of your Inside Track backend, but not the, okay, so you need to port this stuff. Okay. So yeah, maybe we'll, I think now we're getting a little bit more used to CAP and a little bit more sort of comfortable with it. We can return, and now I've sort of got through this sort of slightly crazy last few weeks, as some of you know, get my brain back in gear, and we can maybe get Gregor on again to come and take us through, first of all, the testing stuff in SitReg CapM, and then we can go from there. Talking of guests, I was talking to somebody who I'm sure you all know very well, Tom Young, yesterday, and Tom's going to come on the live stream very soon as well to talk about all the cool stuff that he's been doing in the CAP area as well. So give me a shout if you're looking forward to that. I certainly am looking forward to that. It's probably going to be not next week, but maybe the week after that. We'll see. But yeah, Tom's been doing some really cool stuff in the area of CAP, but also you've seen some of his blog posts recently in the area of using CAP or building stuff using different IDEs on different platforms. Cool. Hey, Hussein, welcome. Good morning. Anyway, so anything I've missed there? Let me just scroll down. I'm just keep looking down here. John, you're all for a test episode, as you know. Yep, John, testing is your middle name, I know. Okay, cool. Well, that's great. I've got some ideas as to what we can do together. And also, if you haven't already, please join the Hands-on SAP Dev channel in the SAP Mentors and Friends Slack, and maybe we can sort of continue this discussion there to work out what we want to do. And bear in mind that, I'm probably going to be the bottleneck in all this from a time perspective, but also from a brain capacity perspective. I've not really played around with testing much in general and in CAP at all. So this will be a learning exercise for me too. I think HP says, I think it's a big disadvantage that CDS code repo is not public, and so NSS on neither. Yeah, again, there are in a similar way to the groundswell of desire inside of SAP a long time ago to make UI5 open source. There is a similar desire in this area as well. Now, I'm not saying and that's something that you may not have known, but you could have easily guessed. It's not anything particularly crazy sensitive. I don't know where that will go, but I know that there is a there is a desire at that level. And of course I desire that too. Thank you, Gregor, for posting that. But anyway, I think the whole CAP story has become a catalyst for, at least for me, for rediscovering a lot of sort of development processes, and also maybe rediscovering a little bit of OData as well, because it's so easy to create OData services. I noticed somebody said something about, was it you, Gregor, or something about combining CAP with Cloud SDK? Where are we? I'm going to scroll up. I can't see it, but I'm sure I saw it somewhere. Anyway, I'm not going to look through the stream. You can remind me. But one of the things I'm working on this week actually is a series of tutorials for Tech Admission in the app space, which is exactly that, the combination of Cloud SDK and CAP to consume a mock S4 service. And it's I think it's very interesting. And I'm learning a lot as well by having to write the sample code and then write the tutorials about it. So yeah, watch this space. Chat pause due to scroll. How do I sort of unpause it? Thank you, Gregor. Which channel in the workspace is it? It's hands-on SAP Dev channel. Hands-on SAP Dev channel. That's the channel. Anyway, right. Enough of that, he says to himself. I'm going to switch to the main layout here. And here's something I was literally 10 minutes before I went live. Yes, it can. Cloud SDK can also be used with S4 on-prem. I was playing around with Tmux, as I was saying, with this book here. So I've got this live stream episode. The way I've decided to do it now is that for every episode, I've got a directory here, Ep.33, for example, and it's running within a Tmux session. However, there's all sorts of really cool things you can do with Tmux. I didn't realize until recently that Tmux is a client-server mechanism. And what do I mean by that? Well, basically, you can actually, I've switched to another item session here. Let me just move that. There we go. There, you can see there's another item session. And I've just been hacking around with some Tmux commands to think about how I might quickly start up a development session. So right now I've got the classic bookshop in a directory, temp bookshop, and in there that's something that in fact what I'll do is I will go out of here for a second, go into the temp directory. So I've got this other script. Oh, in fact, it's not a script, it's a function, which I think I showed you before. I'm going to push some updates to my dot files, which will include this and the other thing at the end of this stream. I've got my dot files, qmacro dot, where are they? There. Post them to the thing here. And anyway, so I've got this np new project, which will set up a new project really quickly from a sort of a pre-compile or pre-setup project that I've gzipped together. Gzipped together. And so I can say, for example, new project, and it'll give me a list of all the ones I've got, which I've only got Bookshop right now. So it'll create a new Bookshop project in a Bookshop directory. I could have given it a directory name as well. So I've got that there. But now I will, so that's that project there. And I'm going to create a new Tmux session called capdev. I want to check first of all whether that capdev session already exists. But if it doesn't exist, I'm going to create it. And then I'm going to send some commands to it. You can send keys to sort of, drive it remotely. You can even have things like, you can send commands like split the window into 2 panes, and then send some more key presses to window 1, pane number 2, and so on. You can sort of get the general idea of this. We don't need to dig in right now. This is literally something I've written. With some help from the book and other bits and pieces, and then you can say, okay, I want to select the first pane again and send the keys to that. But and if the session already exists, then I'll attach to it. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just say capdev, and what will that do? So that sets up a nice 2-pane single window Tmux session that's starting up the actual Bookshop service, as you can see here on the right. And on the left here, it starts Vim and then hits Control P to give me my choice of files that I want to open, for example, cat service.cds. So I thought that was quite nice. You can also, if I start up a new terminal here, you can sort of see the general idea. I can say, for example, Tmux, in fact, cat, where is it? Scripts, what's it, cat dev, select pane, new session, send keys, split window. Yeah, so I could say, for example, I think Tmux split window in vertically, horizontally, yeah, so vertically, cap dev. There we go. So it splits it there. So we're actually driving the Tmux session from somewhere else, which I thought was quite cool. Anyway, enough of that. That's what I've found so far. And I can imagine sort of this being really, really useful. Anyway, I'm going to detach from that session because, of course, I can run that again and it will just reattach automatically, right, to there. That's the other part of the if then else in that script. Anyway, episode 33. What I was looking at last night and this morning, there was a post that, or a tweet rather, that twitter.com Fred tweeted in response to something that I had written about. Do I call things packages? Do I call things here we go. Do I call things modules? And it's a really interesting document or article. Basically, it sort of made me think, oh, maybe I do have to distinguish, but in general, using the word package is more likely to be correct. Basically, a package is something with with a package.json file in it, and the way they describe it here is really nice. So you can have a gzip tarball of that, or a URL that points to that, or something that's published on the registry that has a URL that points to that, etc., etc. So it's like turtles all the way up or down or whatever, right? And the final one, which piqued my interest, is of course a package can be a Git URL. that, when cloned, results in a folder containing a program described by a package.json file. So what I'm interpreting from this is that when I'm thinking in terms of installing and cloning and distributing and publishing and consuming things, I think the word package is the right thing to do. But when you go down to the bottom, where was it? Modules. Here we go. Yeah, a module is any file or directory in the node modules directory that can be loaded by the Node.js require function. So for me, and Fred or anybody else, let me know if you agree with this. For me, the word module is more appropriate to use when we're sort of actually starting to consume code in JavaScript, as in, consume with require. To be loaded by the Node.js require function, a module must be one of the following: a folder with a package.json file containing a main field. Now, I've not come across, or I don't remember seeing any package.json without a main field, but of course I could be missing something. A folder with an index.js file in it, so it doesn't have to have a package. So there is this sort of Venn diagram I'm imagining in my head where there's a huge overlap between what a package is and what a module is, but of course there are exceptions as well. And that got me thinking about something. I've just seen a massive comment from Ronnie here. So this is just the push I needed to expand my doc files and to create something with Git in it. Set Git for blah. Yes. Good. Okay, cool. That's good. Yeah, I think I've learned a lot from your doc files, and I've learned a lot from the doc files that you have learned from as well. It's all. I think if anybody else has got any doc files or any sort of dev environment setup foo that they have and use on a daily basis, then let us know. Anyway, so that got me thinking. I saw something relating to this. Where is it? Here, a Git URL that, when cloned, results in relation to cap. And I couldn't remember what it was until this morning, which was spaceflight. So spaceflight is a topic, a sort of a data topic that was used for TechEd material last year. I know that Chris Whaley had a lot to do with, and other people as well, had a lot to do with the creation of this general spaceflight model. And if I remember correctly, the spaceflight model consisted of a core model, which wasn't specific to Node.js, or let's at least say a core GitHub repo, Git repo, because I think there's also a Java one. Yes, there's a Java one as well. Okay, but let's stick to the Node one for now. And what I remember seeing, thinking in terms of Git repo URLs when it comes to packages, is this. In here, we've got our package.json, which of course we've all seen before. But look at this, what the hell? That sort of, at the time, blew my mind. In that it was a really nice way to reference something remotely. And of course, how is that working? Well, of course, when you do an npm install for SAP CDS, it's going to hopefully use the right registry to pull that down because of, let's go here. Have we got one in here? npm? No, there isn't. There isn't an npm RC file. But the npm RC file is where you would typically see the pointer, let's call it, or the association between the @SAP scope. This is called a scope, right? Where is it? There. Between the scope and which registry packages in that scope are to be found. So in fact, we could try some of this out in a minute. I keep getting beeps on my phone. What's going on? Okay. Mr. Max Streifeneder has just liked that tweet about packages and modules and everything, which is quite nice. I'll take this phone off because it keeps buzzing. There we go. Move that over there. It's quite distracting. So we've got this idea of the dependencies, and here's a normal, let's say, a standard npm registry dependency. Express, of course, is another standard dependency. But then here we've got this thing called spaceflight model, which could be anything. We could be any string, I guess, or nearly any string. But it points to a GitHub repo URL. Okay, it's the Git scheme here rather than HTTPS, but there we go. So that got me thinking. I would like to investigate more about how these sorts of things would work, because one of the other things, another philosophical question for me is, how do we start sharing our CAP components? Because one of the big things about things that you see written about CAP is that the whole idea is that it supports reusability, and it makes reusability really simple. In fact, let's go back to let's go back to episode 33 for a second, 32 rather, and if we have a look at our bookshop example. I hope you don't mind me keep using bookshop, but again, it just means that we don't have to think about, there's something new here I have to get in my brain before I can even start looking at the delta. If we have a look at our data model, it's a classic data model here, and then we've got a separate file which is effectively what you might imagine as, I've got the bookshop here, but I want to add my own stuff, but I don't want to have to modify the data model.cds file, for example. That's one level of reuse and one level of extension where you're not stamping all around original files. So that then also means, theoretically, that the base bookshop books and authors could be in a Git repo, right? So that's what I'm thinking about. And in the same way, if we have a look at the server directory, of course we have these using statements here, right? And we can and cat service, okay, it's the same sort of thing. So what I thought we could start trying to do is have create a simple CAP model, push it to GitHub, and then start consuming that as a dependency, just to sort of start to feel, what that's like. And before we actually start, putting pen to paper, as it were, or fingers on the keys, the final thing that really made me think, yes, this is something that I personally would like to learn more about and think more about, is that when I went to GitHub, I saw something. I think I was looking at one of Tom Young's repos. The releases tab here allows us to look at various releases and tags which have been around GitHub for a long time. Of course, those are not GitHub specific. Those are Git things, right? However, there's this GitHub announced recently, registry npm. Here we go. So in the same way that there's the standard, quote unquote, standard npm registry at npmjs.org or something like that, and we have the SAP npm registry at npm.sap.com, which is where some, not all, but some of the packages scoped with at SAP are to be found. new on the scene, and I've signed up for the beta. I don't have beta access yet. In fact, unless it's suddenly come in, let me just look at my mail. GitHub, again, another wonderful thing that's happening with GitHub since Microsoft took them over, is that they're offering the ability to host packages as as a legitimate npm registry that the npm command can talk to in the same way that it can talk to other npm registries. And you can have private packages and public packages. And the idea of scopes, apparently the idea of scopes, like at SAP, that the idea of scopes wasn't around since the year dot with npm. It's something that was added more recently. And it works really well. So with the GitHub package registry, we hit the ground running from the start, where everything is scopes. So I think my packages would be scoped at QMacro. Fred's packages would be scoped at Fred for Hurl or whatever. So John, never thought I'd hear you say Microsoft are wonderful in the same sentence. I've never had a problem with Microsoft per se. Office 365, SharePoint, Word, Excel, yes. Keep them away from me. Nightmare. But some of the stuff Microsoft are doing, especially these days, GitHub with the language server protocol, VS Code, what's not to like? Skype, keep that away from me. I don't even run Skype. It's just so. Anyway, my favorite UX fail ever is something that's on Skype. So you go on a Skype, you're in busy mode. You've set your status to busy, so people sort of keep away. You go on a call, you finish on Skype, you finish that call, and Skype resets your status to available. What? Anyway, this is not about Skype. Anyway, where was I? Yes, you can sign up for beta. So you have every single package is scoped. It can be private or public. And you can sign up for the beta, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I think that's pretty cool. So I've got one email here. No, it's not. It's not you have beta access yet. So let's ignore that for now. So I think the combination of the GitHub package registry, the ability to consume or define the consumption of CAP CDS definitions from afar, I think that's a really nice combination, right? So that's something I'd like to try. Now, I'm very aware of the time. This has been absolutely super fantastic conversation-wise. We're not going to get much time to start doing this, but why don't we? I did see. Yeah. Okay. What I think we should do is start doing something in this context. Start having a dependency to a Git URL. Maybe in the next episode. Give us a bit of time, because I did see. I was looking around this. Where was it? Check out the documentation. Yes, here it is. I did see that there's a sample project on the GitHub package registry. So I don't know whether anybody has already signed up for the beta, but I would suggest you do. Let me put the URL to the package registry feature in this link in the chat there. Mark saying for that registry you would need a vulnerability scan too. Well, I think for anything you would need a vulnerability scan. However, one of the things that really, one of the ideas of this that really appeals to me is that, GitHub has the concept of teams and organizations and privacy. So I'm thinking it would be really easy if I was on a project or in a wider organization. We could share our own packages with each other and with nobody else, and so of course that's a lot smaller surface area for vulnerabilities. But also we're in control of all of that code there. Yes, of course, if you're going to start consuming, packages from other people. Yes, of course, vulnerability scans are still valid, unless I've misunderstood your question, right? But I'm thinking even for my own, within my own sort of single person world, I would like to define reusable cap npm packages, host them on GitHub privately, for example, for myself, and consume them and organize them that way. That way, I've got, and one of the big selling points for the GitHub package registry is that your source code and your sort of code lifecycle is happening in the same place as where you're actually serving your registry components from. It's all in the same place, which really appeals to me. And plus, there's also this is not just about npm. I've noticed that the same concept applies from an availability perspective to Docker. So I'm guessing that means that just like there's the Docker hub where I can pull down containers, definitions that other people have built, I can maintain my own container definitions, my own Docker files in the GitHub Docker registry, or GitHub Docker hub. I don't know what it's called. Anyway, so GitHub has it. GitHub. Oh, I see. Yes, GitHub has the vulnerability scan. Is that what you're saying there, Ronnie? Check out the latest thing there. They put that up there. This is what Ronnie's just pointed to. That's my API code. It uses Lodash, and I have a message when I enter it, and GitHub has even. Yes, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, HP. That's a fair comment. The next area GitHub poaches better community support, better support GitLab. They provide their software as community edition. Check the pull. Yes, I mean the debate between GitHub versus GitLab. I've been a big user of GitLab in the past. We used GitLab quite a lot, didn't we, John? When we were working at Bluefin. Yes, I mean I think competition is good, but anyway, I'm not gonna try and resolve that. GitLab versus GitLab. GitHub here. We did indeed. Yes, thank you. So anyway, blah 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 blah. Check the pull requests. Where are we? There we go. Yes. Okay. So Dependabot. See, yeah, it's really cool. So this is bump Lodash from 4.17.11 to 4.17.14. That's awesome. I didn't realize it did that. So yeah, there's all sorts of stuff that GitHub does, and maybe GitLab does or will do or does better. Plus there's this whole GitHub Actions, which I've still not got access to beta-wise to play around with. But anyway, so where were we? Oh yes, why don't we try and consume this thing here? We've only got 10 minutes left. So about GitHub package registry, this is Coda2Cat. How do you pronounce that? In fact, let's open that up in a new tab. I don't know why, but all of a sudden, if I right click on that, command click, I'm supposed to open a new tab. I've probably messed around with my key settings. Anyway, package hello world npm. So, right, okay, so this is a special URL, because you can see it says packages here. So let's look at the normal GitHub page. There we go, one package, packages, as well, that's right, as well as releases and tags, we've got packages. And there's one package, hello world npm, a simple npm package demonstrate GitHub package registry. Click on that, and I guess that's where we were. Yeah, okay, cool. Before installing, make sure to authenticate with GitHub package registry or using a .npm rc file. See configuring npm for use with GitHub package registry. Let's just open that in a new tab for a second. And then we just do a normal npm install of that based upon the fact that the npm rc will point at Coda2Cat scope to the GitHub package registry, I guess. And then we can use it. So let's try that. We've got that thing here. Authenticating to GitHub package registry. You must use a personal access token with the read packages and write packages scopes to publish and delete. I'm not publishing or deleting. Your personal access token. Okay. Publishing a package? No, we're not publishing a package. But I guess we still probably need to authenticate. Publishing multiple packages, receiving, installing a package, installing a package. Authenticate to GitHub package registry using an npm RC or npm login. Ooh, npm login. Okay. Authenticating to GitHub package registry, but take us up there. Okay, let's have a look at this one as well then. Creating a personal access token for the command line. Okay, verify email address. Yeah, I've done that. Okay. Sign in as Octocat settings, developer settings, personal access tokens. Okay, let's do that. Generate. Okay, so let's try that. Yes, John, thanks. In fact, to be honest, I have been in the past few days. There's a little switch on the mouse here to turn it off. Turning the mouse off and keeping it away, and just using the keyboard. Because of course, normally I would be using. In fact, let me go back to here. I would be using my Vimium key bindings to. So if I hit Shift F and then hit SK, which is this thing down here, right? It will open that up in a new tab. Okay, which is quite nice. Anyway, but yeah. I need another t-shirt to do with mice, I suppose. But anyway. How are we doing for time? Oh, we've still got just less than 10 minutes left. So let's try this, okay? What I'll do is I'm going to try and create a personal access token. Let's go here. And I may have to switch to my super secret scheme here. Let's go to GitHub. Settings. What was it? Where do we have to go? Settings, developer settings, personal access tokens. Developer, oh, there it is there in the separate list. Personal access tokens. Ooh, devrlt dash. Okay, so I'm going to generate a new token. I'm going to do this super secret just in case. I've no idea really what I'm doing here, but oh, there we go. Yes, password. That's good. Confirm password. New personal access token. This is for GitHub registry, and it asks us for it asks us for the repo scope, and what else do we have to do? Read packages and write packages. Okay, here we go. Read packages and write packages. Read packages, write packages. There we go. Generate token. I'm going to copy that and move away from that and go back to my main screen here. I'm going to put that in here so I don't lose it. There we go. Perfect. So we're back here. Generate new token. There we go. Okay. Now, you can configure npm to use your token when pushing new packages by editing your home directory npm, so not a project specific npm. Right. Okay. Let's try that. Just noticed something from Ronnie. What you need to do, DJ, is create a hands-on SAP Dev merchandise. You know what? I was thinking about that the other day. Yeah, hands-on SAP Dev merch. If you're interested in that, of course. Well, I suppose this is not just specific to SAP, of course, and I wouldn't want to do this anyway. But any profit that is made, we can donate to charity. If that's okay with you folks, then that's really cool. Yes. So I think. Who is it that Uwe Fetzer, SE38 on Twitter, he has a merchandise shop, and I think Denise Neprownik as well works for SAP. She's got a t-shirt shop as well, so maybe I should do that. Ooh, yes. So I'm glad you said that. Anyway, so let's just copy this thing here, personal access token. Let's go back to here, and Have I got one already? npm-rc. Yes. Oh, in fact, Denise has got some great shirts. In fact, I've got one of those shirts. I'll wear it next time. I think I've worn it. I wore it at SAP Inside Track Frankfurt, didn't I? Oh, yeah, there we go. I've already got some global stuff. Okay, so the SAP scope points to that registry. And also, when I'm doing a list, I only want to see the top level stuff. So I've put the depth here as 0. So I'm going to paste that in. And now I'm going to switch again. I shouldn't even put my camera on this super secret thing. I'm going to switch again to, there we go. I've put the access token. I think that's the first time I've ever used that super secret scheme in Anger. Scheme, what's it called? Scene in Anger. So there we go. We've got that. So now what do we have to do? Let me just put that down there for a second. We should now, yeah, theoretically, let's just create something. Let's go back to episode 33 and let's say make the test, cd test, npm init, yes, using the -y from Ronnie's tip here. And now, oh, by the way, yeah, that's got a main, hasn't it? Yeah, there we go. So now, I'll add in the project specific .npmrc file, I will add at, where is it? Package hello world. At codacat. I think, I'm guessing I have to put that in the thing there. Yeah, why don't we do this? Let's try it without it first. npm install at coder2cat hello world. Oh, hold on. It helps if I put it up there, doesn't it? Hello world. Let me put it across. Let's put it. Where should we put it? Let's put it here. There we go. Hello world npm. Now this, I'm guessing, will probably fail. Yeah, because it's not found, because it's gone to the regular npm registry. So I'm going to say at coder2cat hello world npm. There's nothing like not reading the documentation, is there? There we go. So let's try that again. Oh, sorry. That's not going to work, is it? I need to say equals. Now, where do we put it? Package dot. I'm sure I saw it somewhere. Where am I? Am I looking in the wrong place? Nerd prawning. There we go. Excellent. Nerd prawning. Equals. Now, configure npm for use with. Ah, there we go. There. That's it. Come on. There. I guess that is registry owner registry. Oh no! Wait a minute. Not the package itself, but literally registry. Right? Like that. Yes, of course. Just like yeah, so like SAP registry, of course, right? So that looks good. Let's try that. So that works. That's really cool. So we've now installed a package from the GitHub npm registry. I guess we can use it as well, but you know, that's beside the point here. Let's just how do we use this? Node const my package equals require coder2cat hello world npm, and then my package dot hello world. There we go. Hello world. Perfect. Okay. It's the end of the hour. Can't believe it. So much more to play around with here. We've just started. Maybe by next week, I have no idea how long it takes to get on the beta, but maybe we can start even publishing stuff to the GitHub NPM repo and consuming it like that. So there. Thank you so much for joining. I'm going to call it quits right now for this particular episode. I really enjoyed the conversation. Let's have more of that next time. Thank you very much. Have a great weekend, and get on that beta waiting list for the GitHub package registry, and see who gets there first. Until next time, have a good one. Bye for now.